we are relying on the Palestinian journalists to report, to tell us what is going on, and they have persevered. And I think we are honored to have Youmna El Sayed today with us, who has made, I would say, superhuman efforts to join us today. We also have with us, joining us live via satellite link, Wael Al-Dahdouh, who unfortunately wanted to be with us today and couldn't, was prevented from traveling to Sarajevo, but he wanted to be with us. As Wael, welcome. And I think we are honored and thrilled that esteemed journalist Azmat Khan has accepted our invitation to lead this conversation and has traveled all the way from New York to be with us. Azmat's, I think, reporting on civilian casualties of war won her the Pulitzer Prize, and currently Azmat is the director of the Simon and June Lee Center for Global Journalism at Columbia University. And I cannot imagine a better person to tell us about the crisis of this moment than Youmna, Wael, and Azmat. Please welcome.
Thank you so much, Frane. It is such an honor to be here with, exactly as you said, these journalists who are extraordinary profiles and courage, journalists who have risked their lives to bear witness and to tell the stories of what is happening in Gaza right now. It is the most profound reporting that one can do, and it comes at great loss. So I'd please just like to give both Wael and Youmna a big round of applause and thank them for being here tonight. So we're going to be talking about some very dark subjects today. So I wanted to start with a lighter question, if I may, to both of you, to both Wael and Youmna. In so many ways, journalism is a calling to bear witness. It is something that you are called to do. And I wanted to ask for each of you, what was it that called you to journalism? And what does journalism mean for you? So why don't we start with Wael, and then I'd like to turn to Youmna. And there's a translation happening, so we'll just have like a momentary pause between a question.
I cannot hear him, please, just... It was my wish to be among you and to participate and to listen to you and for you to listen to me, but these are the circumstances. In any case, through this channel, I can basically put some light on issues in my life and in my professional life. Indeed, this mission is very difficult, and we are very much basically under huge pressure, because in any situation we can be in huge danger. And we know that professionals are always professional reporters and newspaper people and reporters. They are trying to convey the picture in to all parts of the world. But in the Gaza Strip, it is the feeling that we always have, that you as a journalist, you can become a news that you are reporting. To become, instead to be to convey the news, to become title in the news. This is what is making life of Palestinian journalists difficult. as you can watch all Palestinian news people or media people are paying huge price to do their mission. They always try to have that kind of professional approach, to be transparent and to basically follow all the procedures and standards for security, etc. But unfortunately, they turn or they make targets of them, sniper firing or bombarding, and he's paying his life as a price for his mission. But we choose this mission freely, and because we are certain and because we believe deeply that there is a message that we want to convey, and that it is a human mission and it can be a goal in a human life. That's we believe in this mission, and we basically give our full effort, even our blood and even our lives, because millions are waiting from us to convey these news and pictures that we are now basically sending to the world from Gaza, and we are paying the price with our lives, with our with all that we have, and we lose our close friends in that, even our family members, our neighbors, and our cousins. In the end, events are now going inside of Gaza Strip. We were born there, we basically were brought up there, and we became part of that environment. All of them, we treat them as a part of the social structure that is there. The work in Gaza Strip, unfortunately, it is life of the reporters or the news people or the media people. It is not only burdens, but it is also making even that preparation to give you a life on the path. Even in this moment we are talking after more than 8 months, the war is ongoing and the attack is ongoing. This is our profession in Gaza. Despite of all of that, we will continue to do our work professionally, and this gives us a strength.
Thank you. And Youmna, what brought you to journalism?
So I actually graduated from the translations and languages and translation faculty, and that was in Cairo University. So journalism wasn't really a component of my educational background. But as soon as I moved to the Gaza Strip in the 2014, this territory, it was a very interesting territory for me as someone who was living out of the Gaza Strip my entire life. It's a place that I did not hear a lot about. I did not know a lot about. It was a place that was under an ongoing Israeli siege, but it had amazing stories of the people there. But the people there were not really heard. No one knew anything about them. I did not feel that there was a lot of coverage, international journalists being able to enter the Gaza Strip, to speak about the Gaza Strip, the people of the Gaza Strip, this territory. It was mainly spoken about when there is a conflict, there is a war, there is an escalation. So it's basically just covered those bloody events. But the beautiful stories of life of the people of Gaza, that part or that reflection of life was never even brought. And that was my first motivation to pursue my dream, like journalism was a dream, it was a passion for me. But then I've always believed that journalism is actually reflecting and being the voice of people who don't have the privilege to speak about themselves to the entire world. You do that for them. And this was my main motivation in Gaza.
Yeah. That's actually the motto of the network for which both of you and Wael report, Al Jazeera. This voice of the voiceless is often espoused as its central mission. And I want to turn to some of the recent news that has happened to Al Jazeera with the banning of it by Israel and the seizing of equipment and shutting down of bureaus. Can you talk a little bit about what has happened and what it means in the context of press freedom?
Well, what has happened, everyone has seen what has happened. It's not something that has been hidden. It's basically very clear how it is being tackled, how it's being addressed. That is a legal matter. But yes, this is another fight against the freedom of speech. And this just shows basically how much the suppression of the freedom of speech is being practiced by Israel. And it's very clear that this has happened with Al Jazeera, but just several days later, almost a week later, the AP was also, or the live feed for the AP was also disrupted. So this is also another attack on the freedom of speech. For over 8 months now of this ongoing genocide, no international journalist was allowed freely, independently, to enter the Gaza Strip and to cover this war from the events from the beginning. So we've always said, we know as Palestinian journalists living in Gaza, we know the nature of this. We know the nature of the Israeli government and how it deals with us as Palestinian journalists, as a Palestinian population. But what the international world has not been aware of, or maybe was aware but chose at some times to ignore or disbelieve, is that there is a true suppression of freedom of speech, and it has been practiced on you as international journalists, as international organizations, journalism organizations, and you have not been able to do anything about it. And it not just stop there. It has gone to the point of banning an international network like Al Jazeera from doing its work, and then going to the AP and disrupting its live feed. And it's going to continue because it starts with one step, but it does not end there. As long as there is no action in return to all that suppression, it will go on, and it will escalate, and it will fire back on the international journalism organizations.
Thank you. Wael, you have suffered extraordinary losses, profound losses. The journalists of Gaza, more than 100 of them, and media workers have been killed, primarily in Israeli airstrikes. You have lost family members, you've lost colleagues, journalists have been arrested and detained. They have been working under extraordinarily dire conditions, hunger, lack of sleep, lack of electricity. In the previous panel, people were talking about, well, the journalists of Gaza now have cell phones. They also have blackouts. They also have lack of electricity. They also have enormous obstacles. Even if they're able to get coverage out on the internet, they can get shadow banned or censored, something that we have seen in real time. These are extraordinary challenges, the likes of which I don't think we've seen. But Wael, I want to ask you, you have suffered extraordinary losses. We spoke earlier about whether he was comfortable sharing this, but Wael, I want you to tell the audience here a little bit about what it was like to be reporting and to lose your wife and your son and your daughter in an airstrike, and then to keep reporting and survive an airstrike that killed one of your colleagues, and to keep reporting and learn that Hamza, one of your sons who is a journalist, was killed while he was reporting in January. Hamza, what can you tell us about working through these losses?
What can we say? probably a human being cannot express himself. This pain that is there. What does it mean to have your family as target? I cannot hear him, unfortunately. There is. We can be killed in any moment because we are doing human mission, and we know that there is a certain nature of this occupational forces, and they will take news people and media people for target. But we were a little bit surprised. Why do they target our families? And occupation choose to have that approach. It is very harsh and very painful approach when you have people seeing their families torn to pieces. Why should my wife pay a price because of the profession of her husband? And my daughter, Sham, she was 6 years old. She paid with her life profession of her father. Mahmoud, my son, who was preparing himself to be the journalist who is able to speak in English language, why he was killed in this shelling and bombing of the family. All of my family were killed in the house, and cousins. Even my grandson, in the first month of his life, also lost his life. My brothers' children also lost their families. And tens of them were also injured, and they were also under the possibility to be killed. Why? Because I work as a journalist, and my mission is to be professional. And we do not try nothing else except to be professional. We do not put things out of the frame. We do not make facts as we want. We are basically conveying what is happening on the ground. What does it mean to be there? And there was organization, and Israeli forces approved our visit there. And then in Khan Yunis, they took our crew as a target. And all of our movements were under surveillance of drones that are and they can basically read even the details of what is happening on the ground. They were over our heads, and we were basically targeted by rockets. 3 of people from the civil defense were killed, and my colleague Sami was also, and I was also injured, and I'm now under treatment. Even my colleague Samir was injured. He was not killed. But the Israeli army refused ambulances or prevent ambulances to come and take care of him. We found out that when we took his body, Marta Samir, when he took that he was targeted once again when he basically removed his bulletproof vest, and he tried to basically search for shelter, but he was targeted second time with a rocket that killed him, and his body was torn by that rocket, and his camera will also became, and we have some part of his equipment became part of his body from the strength of this hit. And he was basically in the mission. And Israeli approval was there. And they know that we are there. Not only for journalists. And after that, I have my son Hamza. He was also video recording some of the houses that have been torn in an airstrike. He was coming back from his mission, and he was killed. and his body was also totally burned in the explosion. And also 2 other journalists were also injured. So there is intention in that targeting. This is not easy, this is painful, not easy for anybody. Any human being, when you pay that kind of price, but in the end, from the beginning until now, we know that this war will be difficult and it will cost us a lot. But nevertheless, we will continue to do our obligation and to do our duty. And this is what I want every time. It was always painful to go back to camera and in front of lenses, and I understood there that Israel is basically putting challenge in front of me, something that is unprecedented. Are you going to go back? But you need to continue and to be on the level of that challenge. I will go back with lenses, camera lenses, and I will not change. My message or my mission will be what it was always. Even the way in which I will report, sentences that I will use, the messages that I will send, nature of covering of these, it will be. That was the highest challenge. I think we as journalists, we succeeded in this. Despite of all difficulties, more than 150 were killed. They paid their lives as a price for this human mission. But unfortunately, it is ongoing. This is what is painful. We are paying this price, and painful and difficult, but what is the alternative? Should we sit or go outside of the scene? Is this going to guarantee that we will be more secure in Gaza? There is no secure place in Gaza. No hospital, no mosque, no place. Even the tents are not secure place for people that are now basically giving shelter to tens of thousands of people. There is no other choice for us. That's why this is our choice, to continue our work and to convey these messages, this humanitarian and human mission that we have. And we thought that we were protected by international law, but unfortunately, there was no protection for journalists in Gaza. That's why we paid such a price.
Yeah.
Probably in all wars that even wars that have been ongoing for years, you do not have this number of journalists. 150 to be killed in such a short time. This is devastating and I want to convey this to you. This is something that it is more than the humans can bear, but God Almighty is giving us this strength and giving us this patience and capability to basically take these pains, take these difficulties, and to understand that our mission is more, and there is importance in conveying the messages to millions of people all over the world who are waiting to know what is happening in Gaza, that is under the siege and under the war. There is no journalist except Palestinian journalists who are working day and night to give the voices to those who do not have voices. This is what gave us patience. Additionally, and this is also significant and important, those also families of journalists, they do not understand what is the war, essentially. But their lives also, they became victims. They also gave sacrifice. They miss us. in the most important moments of their lives. They need us, and we are not there for them. But when they paid their life as price, my daughter, she paid in order for her father to perform his mission. It is a disgrace, and this is not acceptable to go from this path. They paid that price. We will remain on that path that we have been doing this. We will never accept to go astray from this path. This motivated us. Even after they were killed, we need to respect their sacrifice, and we will continue to give our sacrifice on the path of our profession. And we know that we have give significant contribution to the world in order to know what is happening to us and what is happening in Gaza.
Thank you. It really is extraordinary. Wael, the day after his family was killed, you could see him at a funeral for his loved ones, and then he continued reporting on. The days after his colleague was killed, you saw him wearing a press vest at a funeral for him, even though he was injured, and he continued to report. After his son Hamza was killed, he said, Male, she said, it roughly translates to, it's okay. And he continued to do this journalism, even though he is injured and getting medical treatment. And that is one example among so many journalists who have paid extraordinary prices from their families, from,
Can I just say something
please.
about this? It's not really that Palestinian journalists are not human enough, or they're extraordinary human, or don't have that, amount of feeling or like soft hearts inside. We just don't have that privilege of breaking down. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that privilege. At the beginning of this war, one day, I got back home. It was before the evacuation, the first evacuation. And I had returned from a Shifa hospital and everything that I had seen there. And that same day, I was actually going to get killed in Jabalia refugee camp by a missile that hit the area where I was. And I got really hurt, and it was like, I don't know what happened, but a miracle happened, and I escaped that targeting. But it was just too much, a lot of emotions, a lot of exhaustion, mental and physical exhaustion. And then I was in my room that night, and I was crying. I put my hands on my face, and I cried so hard. And my 8-year-old, Serene, she just turned 9 last March. She came in, and she was very quiet. She held my hand, she removed them from my face, and she told me, Mommy, you can't break down. You can't be weak, because if you are weak, we see everything black around us, and we can't survive. And I felt like I was shocked by her words, that she's only 8, and she spoke like she was 18. And I felt like I have a much stronger and important responsibility not to break down, because if I do break down, these vulnerable souls that depend on you as a parent won't have any hope to continue surviving. So this was one fact as parents, and the other, many other factors, is that if we did break down and surrender and give up and feel tired and exhausted and just, like a normal human being, just decided that we can't do it anymore? Who's going to continue covering the story? Who's going to continue speaking about it, about the suffering, the ongoing suffering, the days that get worse and worse every day? So it wasn't just a professional duty that kept us going, and because we are heartless or we're iron people. No, it was the reality that we felt that we were abandoned, and that pain and that reality that we felt as journalists, that we have been abandoned. We did not want our kids to feel that same feeling by us, and we wanted the world to continue knowing about what's happening, because we still had hope, and we still do have hope, even after all this time, that this will come to an end, because we are still ongoing, and we are still talking about it.
It was Barry Malone, who I think is deputy editor-in-chief of the Thomson Reuters Foundation, who'd said that, the journalists of Gaza, they wear pressed vests, they lay pressed vests on coffins, they wear them to funerals. They're so proud of their profession, and they honor it, and this commitment that they've made personally, that they've had to do. And yet the world is silent about what is happening to them. Can you talk a little bit about the journalist community's response that you've seen and where they are failing?
For several months, and I'm speaking among a lot of journalists now, and this is very important because for many months, me and my colleagues inside the Gaza Strip, we wondered, where are the journalists of the world? What is happening? Sometimes we even asked ourselves, do they have internet disruption or communication like we have in the Gaza Strip? What is happening? Did something happen to the world outside that they are not even talking about us? We felt for many months that we have been abandoned by the international journalists. We realize, and every single journalist realizes, the power of journalism. Whether you are a reporter who speaks or you are a writer, you have that power in your words, in your pen, in your pictures as a photojournalist. But that power was not put in the right effort, with the right effort when it came to covering the Gaza Strip. Why didn't we find that strong fight, that strong stance by international journalists for the right to enter the Gaza Strip, to cover the war? Why did you abandon that right? What happened to the freedom of speech? What happened to the international organizations, those very strong international journalistic bodies? We did not see those journalistic bodies or international organizations come together and condemn the reality that they are not allowed to enter as journalists to cover this war. We were disappointed by the silence. And you had the power as a journalist. You have that power. But you did not use it. You did not use it, or you just neglected to use it. The fact that journalism, or the integrity of journalism, should be practiced despite all agendas, despite all races, despite any other reason. It should be practiced because it is journalism. It should be practiced everywhere, in every place of the world, not on a story against another. That strong effort that we had seen, the strong condemnation when Ukrainian journalists were killed. We needed to see that. and the number of journalists that was killed in Gaza, it's an unprecedented anywhere in this world. How can you be so quiet about it? Not one show spoke live about the reality of journalists being prevented from entering Gaza. Not one federation of journalism came out to say, we condemn and we ask for our right to enter the Gaza Strip and to support our colleagues. No help, no equipment was sent to the journalists of the Gaza Strip, who from the very first week of the war, all our media offices were destroyed. We had to work from tents. We had to be displaced from place to another. We wrote our scripts on our phones. We filmed with our phone cameras. We did our interviews on the phone. We did everything we could to continue the flow of information from the Gaza Strip. But at the end, we heard there is a lack of information coming from the Gaza Strip. That is your mistake, not ours. You can't blame us. You can't blame us for not fighting for your right to enter the Gaza Strip. There is no lack of information coming from the Gaza Strip from day one and until now. Journalists have paid the price of their own lives for you to get that information. Even speaking about the fact that social media and people are getting the information from social media, well, it's your job as a journalist to verify those videos of the social media, to speak to your people about them. I want you to ask yourself one question. How long do you think this genocide would have taken to end if from day one, international journalists and Western journalists entered the Gaza Strip, covered this war as it is, unbiased to one story against the other, without using the misconception of terms, of words, and definitions in describing what had happened, and delivering all this news to the people, to their people. When you're a French journalist and you speak to your people in France, you're an American journalist and you speak to your audience in the States, you're a British journalist, you speak to your audience in the UK, how much faster could this genocide have ended, and how many lives could have been saved? Silence is also complicity. Silence is complicity. And the silence is terrifying that we are witnessing. It's the silence of it's the silence of journalists, it's the silence of governments, it's the silence of almost everyone. Lately, it's the people who are speaking, but it took us 8 months of suffering for the people to realize what we are going through and to speak and to support and to condemn what is happening in Gaza. It's a very heavy price that the people of Gaza have paid. Do not forget that over 35,000 people have been killed already. 70% of them are children and women. They are not Palestinian fighters. They are children and women.
It was incredibly powerful. And, you know, I hope that there are editors in this room and others who are having those conversations in newsrooms and really trying to take this mantle up. It is so important. And thank you for sharing what you just did. I know we're running close on time, so I want to ask one last question to each of you. I want you to tell me about the beauty of Gaza. Tell me about what you see. We talk so much about the killing and the lives, you know, those who are essentially suffering right now, but tell me about the lives they live and the joy, and tell me about the beauty of Gaza. Let's start with Wael, and then we'll return to you, Youmna.
To talk about Gaza, it is difficult, especially in these circumstances. But Gaza is life. It is basically full with life, with people, with children, youth, women, elders. And you find capacities, you find educated people. They like joy, they like to make joy. This is Gaza. There is a strong will. Despite all the years of blockade and siege, more than 20 years, 30 years, Gaza was not safe, never. Wars, uprisings. But probably this is what gave people in Gaza that strength, that is iron strength, that capability to continue. Every time they impose war on us, we have mortars, we have victims, we have people killed. But from the first moment, the life does not stop. When the shelling stops, then life comes back. Even those who lose their houses and their flats and their families, they are trying to heal each other in order to go back to the life. This is Gaza. It is full with joy, full of beautiful stories and success. All of these issues were present. All places in the world, you have societies. Currently more than 2,300,000. Most of them are young people. They like life. They love life. Never you will say that they like to die or that they want to build life. They are experts in building life. They are not experts in... Probably these circumstances imposed on them certain response. But this is the story of Gaza. All people in Gaza, they have their families, they have their children, youth. People get married there. They build their houses. They struggle in their life. Despite circumstances, they are looking for opportunities, and there are no opportunities due to the blockade and occupation. In this war, it is basically the death brought to Gaza. Even under all of these circumstances, the blood that is shed and what happened with almost all parts of Gaza. Issue of refugees in Gaza. I think that this is what is basically present. That is death that is following people and trying to take them. But they do not surrender to that. Even if they lose their family members, they continue with life. They are building life. We are living in the tents. We saw people trying to bring joy to their children with things that are very simple. Mother trying to sing to her children, to give her emotions, beautiful national songs, to tell them the stories. Even they sometimes invent things to basically celebrate birthday of a person in the family. Not because of the birthday, but because of the joy that they want to bring hope to people, to have life in the jaws of death, to have life. It is catastrophical. It is not life. We have massacres all over Gaza. But life is there. People are not surrendering, even in the tents, in the refugee camps. They want to build life. You find even life that is there. We were sometimes doing our mission and our occupation. Sometimes there is no food, no drink, there is no toilet, there is nothing. Essential things in life that are human needs. Women, youth, where do they go in these areas? But you find them, they find something. What is present, what is available. If something is not available, then we will find something, even if it is almost impossible. They try to make the most from what is available, to make life for them, for their families, and they know in any moment that they can be bombarded or targeted by airplane strikes, air strikes. They leave some of the places. They go to other places under shelling, but they continue. They are looking for life from Gaza to Deir Balah, in Khan Yunus, in Rafah. Then they go back to the middle of Gaza. Now you have people moving from Rafah. Despite of that, you find them very much full of hope and full of life. This is Gaza. It was that, and this is what we can convey to you. This is the story when a human being loses most of the member of his family and his house for 10, 15, 20 years, or for generations. His father and grandfather were there. He loses this house. And he built his family. And he loses them in one moment because it was shelled, bombed. He says, God is enough for us. We are ready to make this sacrifice. This is something that is not present in many nations. This is in Gaza. This is heroic approach of the people in Gaza. In the very, very cold nights with rain, and he is bringing small bread to his family. And then the mother is basically dividing his. We see that. We sometimes do not find even the bread to stay alive. But this is Gaza. People are in solidarity, even elders. They are giving us example that gives us motive to be persistent, to be patient. This is Gaza. In short, Gaza is life, and life is Gaza, despite issue of death from all sides.
Thank you. And Youmna?
So I think that basically the main power or secret about Gaza is the steadfastness of the people of Gaza. They are a nation that has been deprived of all legitimate rights for years. The basic necessities, just like you would meet someone in Gaza who is 50 years old and he's never traveled once in his life. He's never gone out of that border. And for me, as someone, honestly, like before the 2014, when I came to Gaza, it was like, what? You've never left? You've never traveled? That was like something that I felt was like really strange. Not even to Egypt, which is like 20 meters borders between both the Gaza Strip and Egypt. Even that, they have been deprived of. But yet, the Gazan population or the Palestinians in Gaza, it's always been the very little things that they have made or found happiness in. You know, you will find very ambitious people in Gaza. The population itself, this is the nature of the people of Gaza. They're very ambitious. They're very full of opportunities, but they don't just have that chance. You know, they haven't been put to be able to practice that, you know, being able to travel, being able to try new things, being able to explore like other people in the world. But you will find the best doctors in the Gaza Strip. You will find doctors who, and other international delegations, doctors that have come to the Gaza Strip in this war, they have spoken about the amazing opportunities of doctors and their success in saving the lives and working with very little equipment and medical equipment that they have. But you will find the steadfastness. What makes them the best doctors is the steadfastness. They will try, they will make it happen with the least that they have. And this is also the population. They will be happy. They will bring out happiness from the least that they have. You will see boys swinging on the cables of electricity that never feed electricity and laughing and smiling and laughing really from their hearts with happiness. Even at this difficult time, where they have very little food, very little water, they're like surrounded with bombardments, but they will look for that opportunity to laugh from their life, from their hearts, you know, enjoy their lives in that little moment. So it's there, there is a love of life, and they cherish life. And this is very important. This is a very important factor. Do not think that Palestinians do not cherish life. They do. But they do have a very strong faith that keeps them going, that even if we do lose these loved ones, we will have to continue, because it's just, this is our fate. And we just have to go on with it. So it's their steadfastness and it's their faith that still brings their ability to go on with life like normal people in the world. So even in this war, for many times, we sat together, me, Wael, and the other journalists in our tent right there in the street, and we tried to make jokes about anything. In these very horrific times, we tried to find something to make us laugh, because that laughter was the only thing that kept us going along everything else that was ongoing.
Youmna, Wael, the world owes you and the journalists of Gaza a debt that it can never repay. The work that you've done is extraordinary. The coverage that we've had will serve as a record for history. And I hope that you take solace in the contributions that both of you have made and that your people have made. Let's please all give them a huge round of applause.
I just want to say one last thing, please. Maybe me, Wael, and many of our other colleagues who have come out of Gaza, we have been struggling with the survival guilt that we have been living every day, that we survived and our colleagues either didn't or weren't able to come out. But maybe getting out there and speaking about Gaza and speaking about the suffering of Gaza to the people around the world, this is the only thing that is making us survive this survival guilt. But it's not over. It's far away from over. This ongoing slaughter is still ongoing the indiscriminate bombardments are still ongoing. And it's not enough to just condemn it and speak about it in conferences and talk about it in meetings. We need a concrete action. We need the power, every single person who has a power to do something to stop this ongoing killing machine on the people, on the civilians. They must put that into action. Because honestly, the people of Gaza, they deserve that. They have been abandoned for years, and they deserve that you would stand with them now. Thank you so much.